Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight we are back after a 2-week break. We're so excited because we are joined by YouTube star. She talks politics, women's issues, controversial topics in her weekly videos. You've probably seen her. You've certainly heard of her. Arielle Scarcella. Welcome to The Right View. We're really excited to have you on. I've been following you, by the way, online for a long time, and I think people kind of like stumble across some of your stuff, either a video or something you posted on Instagram, which is where I first saw you.
Isn't it crazy? Like, you never know who's watching.
Isn't it crazy?
J.K. Rowling follows me on Twitter. Like, I know. That was like my moment. I had a moment when that happened. I was like, oh, my childhood.
It's the pinnacle. And now, like, it's all downhill from there. No, I'm just kidding you. But
I mean, you can't get much better than J.K. Rowling. Let's be honest.
It's kind of hard to surpass that. I'll totally agree with you. So you obviously, something prompted you to start doing videos, start posting things online. But what did you do before that? I always like to find out about people's past a little bit, because I've had a million different jobs. What were you doing before you started doing all of this online content?
Yeah, I believe it or not, I think it makes sense when you watch my content. I was working in the ad world, so I was working in advertising for Ogilvy and all those like Mad Men companies. And I, worked on Microsoft pitches. I made really good money, but it wasn't fulfilling my soul. We're going to get really deep right away.
Yeah, I love it. Let's go right off to that.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It wasn't fulfilling me at all. And I was very sick. I was coming out of a very abusive relationship, my first girlfriend, and I was calling out of work a lot, and I got fired because I was calling out a lot. Which makes sense, right? So I took that summer off right after I got out of college, and I stumbled upon YouTube videos, and I was like, wow, there's like an LGBT, like a tiny, like maybe 5 people that were making videos at the time that were LGBT on YouTube. And I was like, okay, we definitely need a lesbian presence on here. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I posted a video or two, and people started watching, and I was like, okay, this is something to do. And it made me feel more like myself. Yeah. I was remembering who I was and what I was about, which is, that's taken away from you when you're in an emotional abusive relationship. And I just never looked back. I started talking about LGBT content topics most of the time. At that point, you have to remember gay marriage wasn't even legal yet.
When are we talking about? What year are we talking about?
This was back in 2009.
Okay.
It wasn't federally legal until 2015 or something, or 2012 in New York City. So it was a big deal. And over the past 2.5-3 years, I started focusing more on politics, especially, for a number of reasons. A, because I came out as a Trump supporter.
God forbid. I mean, and like the Scarlet Letter has been applied to you, Arielle. So like, forget it now. You're done for.
That was it. I lost sponsorships. I lost my management company. I lost at least 50 to 100, or so friends, like fellow creators that just stopped following me and then made videos about me, calling me racist, transphobic, bigot, whatever, sexist. I don't know how I could be sexist if I'm a woman, but whatever. And I kept on keeping on because I think that at this point, it's an interesting story for me because I feel like I haven't changed at all. I've always been for respecting yourself and for self-accountability. And I don't think anyone on the far left, stands for that anymore. So for me, it was like pulling a Dave Rubin, so to speak. Like he's quoted saying, "The left, I didn't leave the left left me," and that's how I feel like my transitions happened. It was just kind of like I just stayed where I was, and everyone else was running to the left, and I was like, okay, that's not anything that I believe in, and I'm going to stand for, I'm just going to stand up for myself and. Hopefully I garner a new audience, and it took about 2 years after I lost, a good amount of people that were watching me and supporting me. But now the types of people that are here are 10 times more supportive, I would say. Well, it's so much better.
Look, it would have been, obviously the easy move is to never have come out and said that you have the political views that you obviously do. And I think there's so many people that feel what you just expressed, that they didn't change, that something changed within the Democrat Party, that it left them, as you just said.
Yes.
And I think so many people are afraid, though, Arielle, to come out and say that, because I mean, look at what happened to you. You basically, you made kind of a new career for yourself doing all of this online content, and then to have basically all of what you had created and put your hard work and basically your heart and soul into sort of kind of ripped away and destroyed initially because of your political views, because you had the audacity, God forbid, to come out and say that you agreed with Donald Trump, that you supported what he was doing for the country. I mean, that's really crazy. And I think that it shows sort of how extreme things have become. And look, I personally, I grew up in a very, as a guy, like in a normal American family, a normal American kid. I feel like I grew up in a middle class family. I never had extreme views on anything. I always was taught to do the right thing and be kind to people, but to follow my heart and decide, what I thought was the right path for me. And so now, obviously, my last name is Trump. I can't escape it, but it is hard for me to see how people truly agree with so much that is being pushed by the far left. And I think by doing what you did, you are encouraging a lot of people to at least stick to their convictions. And maybe they're not going to come out and talk about it, but maybe deep down within, they're going to stand their ground on what they believe in. They're going to go in a voting booth and vote that way and not be persuaded by all the nonsense out there. There must have been a point, though, when you kind of got, I don't want to say canceled, but when all these people sort of tried to cancel you, did you regret at any point kind of saying you were a Trump supporter?
No, I didn't. And that confuses a lot of people. I put a lot of thought into it, right? It wasn't just like I sporadically said it. Yeah. I contacted two of my really good friends. One of my friends, Sydney Watson, she's actually an Australian that is now an American, loves America, lives in Dallas, Texas.
A lot of Australians do now, because look what's happening over there.
Yep. That's what happens when you don't have guns, right? Yeah, and which I didn't know, by the way, was like a big deal until I moved to Florida. Then I was like, oh, gun rights is important. But like, I'm from New York. I didn't know. Like, people, it's just a different world down here. But I contacted my friend Sydney and my friend Tim Pool, who has a podcast, pretty popular podcast now. And I told them, I was like, listen, I can't stand by anything that the far left is saying now. And I can't even make friends with people that are not on the far left anymore, which is very much cult. It's a cult, right? Like if you can't make friends with anyone else other than the people in that group, right, that's abusive behavior. I remember I went to Vegas to hang out with my friend, at the time we were acquaintances, my friend Tara, who's another YouTuber. And at the time I had LGBT, flag in my Twitter bio, and it said women empowerment. And she's like, she met me in person and we started talking about like, Trump and red pills and whatever. And automatically she's like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're not one of those crazies. And I'm like, what made you think that? She's like, well, you had the gay flag in I'm like, oh my God, just the fact that I had the gay flag in my bio, people associate me with these.
Aren't we done with that, Arielle? Isn't that just like, that is a thing of the past as far as I'm concerned, because I have so many gay friends who are Trump supporters, who are conservatives, who say exactly the same thing you're saying. Like, I mean, just because I want to date somebody of the same sex doesn't mean I'm dumb, doesn't mean I'm falling for this crap that they're pushing on the left. Yep. Are we done with that now?
Yeah, as my friend David says, I'm gay, I'm not stupid.
Yeah,
that's what he says.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I love that, because I never was, like I said, I was never into politics until the last, I would say, 2.5 years when when I came out. And the funny thing is, I didn't even come out as joining Team Trump right away, because I wasn't. I had to do my research, and I did, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's making a lot of sense.
Well, because Arielle, if you watch TV, if you listen to anything that was out there, Donald Trump is a monster. Right. And he's horrible, and he was trying to destroy the country and all of the above. So good for you that you actually could see through that, because a lot of people, that's the only thing that they see. They see that screen that the media puts up, and man, they're not going anywhere past that. It's hard to get past. So good on you for doing your research. Yeah,
I had to. And when it came time, my brother and I, who's also gay, funnily enough, the 2020 election came around, and both of us, voted red across the board for the first time in our lives. I'm a New Yorker, and you know what it is too? It's like I got to the point where I saw, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, right? I'm 35. I don't want to say that out loud, but like I'm 35.
All right, I'm 39. We're past that.
I know, but I feel so old sometimes. And I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, and the far left, or just anyone on the left, was, you know, the artists, right? And we were all about, don't tell me how to live my life. Don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want. And now that's like the far right.
It's reversed.
Like it's reversed somehow. And I saw that because I'm like I said, I was in abusive relationships, and I noticed that yes, I noticed it happening again, just in the form of politics and in the form of this cult-like behavior from the people that are, you know, in this group. And I was like, I started feeling tense again. I was like a little bit triggered, to be honest, like in an actual triggering way, not like the triggered the way these people get. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. Wow. So I didn't, it would have sucked if I couldn't have done YouTube anymore, or if I couldn't do, you know, my job or what I love or whatever. But I was like, this doesn't feel right to me at a soul level, and I have to stop and put it in its place. Because I feel like, and I posted something on Twitter yesterday, and it was like, what if pain, and it was so deep, and somebody was like, are you high? And I'm like, no. But it said something like, what if pain is your soul's way of telling you you're going the wrong way? So when you're in so much pain, and I meant emotional or spiritual pain. Yeah. I didn't mean physical pain, because everyone has physical pain. Yeah. But when you're in emotional pain, it's a signal to be like, okay, like what is bothering me at a deeper level? Like what's going on here? And I had to stop and say, okay, these people are not serving me anymore. I don't believe in what they're saying. I don't believe in what they're doing. I don't believe in what they stand for. And they're treating me like crap. And I was over it. And I just was like, okay, I was like, Sydney, Tim, help me write this video. I wrote the video, I put it up, and I was like, Godspeed, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And little by little, people started reaching out. Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck. Pretty much like all the people that were supposedly my enemies were being super supportive. And I was like, oh my God.
Do you mean people on the right are inclusive? Do you mean that they're accepting of everyone? Of course. It is what you said though a few minutes ago is so accurate, Arielle. It is like everything has been reversed. People who stand for freedom and for living your life any way that you please, because that is what America is all about. You get to choose your path. You get to choose your career. You get to choose who you love. You get to choose any way you want to do it in America. It used to be synonymous with people on the left, and now it is people on the right.
With artists and hippies and whatever, and it's like, that's not what that is anymore.
It's so wild, but there are so many people that still don't see it. I don't know. First of all, I got to ask you this. Were you surprised, though, with that sort of reaction that you had people coming out and supporting you that supposedly hated you, that would never accept you? Were you surprised by the reaction you got?
I wasn't
saying that.
Well, I didn't believe the far left in saying that everyone hated me on the right. I didn't think I was going to get hate. I thought nobody would have cared on the right. I thought I was going to lose all my support on the left, and I thought it was going to take way longer than it did to gain friends on the right. So I wasn't surprised by the fact that I wasn't getting hate, because I don't really see anyone ever hating anybody from that side. Usually the hate comes from the left. But I was surprised by the amount of support that I got. Like insane. I was very surprised by that. I didn't know. And people say, oh, you're a grifter. It's like, I didn't know. I didn't have friends, right? Like my two friends that were supposedly on the right, like are technically moderates. They're not even really conservative. So I truly didn't have any conservative friends. So it was just this is what I feel like my soul needs to do. I'm going to do it, and I have to trust it. And I did. And now I'm here. So now I'm talking to you.
Good for you. By the way, I mean, like it's never easy to, I don't want to say go against the grain, because I actually feel like there are more people out there that feel the way we do. They're just afraid to speak up about it than the opposite. But it's not easy, because I mean, if we want to be honest, the most critical force, I think, in our country and basically in the world right now is the media. And they do a number on people. I mean, it's an absolutely disgusting group of people in the mainstream media. They have controlled the narrative in our country for so long. I think a lot of people are realizing that. I think they're waking up. But it's not easy to go out there and put yourself out there. I'm curious though, what was it about Donald Trump? Like, when is the moment that you were like, all right, well, this guy isn't that bad. Like, he's not all the things they thought that they said he was. What was it that started moving you in that direction?
There was a few things. One thing that I want to say red pilled me, meaning woke me up, but also made me awake to, Republicans not being the party of evil anymore, or not that they always and ever were, but like at least to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I moved to Florida 3 years ago. I go back and forth now. And that was around the time I started waking up, because people down here are much different than New York.
Yes. And
I made friends. My friend Rogan, DC Drano on Instagram, you know him, I think. And my friend David, I met Rob Smith, who, a gay black guy who is on Fox News an awful lot. And they just sat down and had conversations with me. And that's kind of where it started. And then when I was driving back up to New York for the summer, I met with two of my friends who made me watch a documentary that I don't want to say publicly. We'll just say it had a lot to do with food. And I was just like, wow, I can't even if an eighth of this is true. Yeah. This is disturbing.
This is so interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of it is coming true now with the Epstein stuff and the Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'm like, okay, like this is clearly, this is what we were told in this documentary 2 years ago, and it's coming true now. So what else is true? Wow. And why was Donald Trump the only politician, standing in the way of all the sex trafficking happening? So that was another big deal for me.
Yeah.
People
don't understand. And look, our family, I've said this so many times before, but look, we had no idea what we were doing. When my father-in-law decided to run for president, it's not like anybody came in and they were like, okay, here's how everything in politics works. It literally was Donald Trump, the businessman, the apprentice guy, saying, I'm going to run for president. And basically there was a small group of us that were there initially supporting him. And obviously that grew, but we were very green in the process. We were, I guess I'll say we were very naive in so many ways, because
grassroots, like we started
grassroots. Yeah. I really thought that if he won and he got into the White House, that, you know what, you could go in with good intentions. You could go in not bought and paid for by lobbyists like Donald Trump, and you could actually get things done. And what we quickly found out is that Washington, D.C. is comprised of some of the swampiest, most disgusting people you could ever imagine. That
I believe it now.
I mean, the deepest pit of just terrible people. And it's so dark, and there's so much there, and it's all just layered upon one another. And he started, my father-in-law, peeling back the onion a little bit, peeling back the layers and exposing some of these people and some of this stuff. And they did not like that. So let me tell you, they were going to stop at nothing to make sure he was not elected a second time.
Which says a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you hate a man that you didn't hate before so much?
They loved him. He was like the epitome of success in America.
Yeah, and all the rappers would talk about him in their songs. Nobody cared. And all of a sudden, he's got some inside info.
Right.
And people are terrified. That was the main red pill for me. Why do they hate him so much all of a sudden?
So interesting.
And I was like, something's going on.
Do you have people, though, that come at you from the left that have you convinced other people? Do you feel like to change it? Because I want to get what's like your elevator pitch? What's your 30-second, here's what you tell people to get them to open their eyes?
It depends on why. Well, I guess if they come to me, which is usually how it happens. I don't ever go out and tell people, this is why you should vote for Trump. This is why you should vote red.
You'll never get those people. They got to
exactly
a little bit.
They have to take a bite, right? I throw out a line or whatever. They take a little bite, and then depending on what they bring to me is how I, elevator pitch. If they're talking about just all the ridiculous control tactics that Democrats are using, or the manipulation tactics, or all the lies. Or the fact that all the media covers for Joe Biden every 5 minutes, and Trump, what was it? Actually, I can't even say Trump anymore because not there. But Ron DeSantis recently, they got on his case 2 days ago, whatever it was, because he went missing. Meanwhile, he was literally with his wife helping breast cancer, and Pete Buttigieg left for 2 months during the supply chain crisis, and nobody got on his case. So it's why are these things happening? Why is there no self-reflection or just reflection in general with the Democratic Party? Why can they do no wrong? And it's
a one-way
because
street with them. They could literally go a million miles an hour in the wrong direction, and there is no one there to stop them. Look at the time. I mean, they have violated the Constitution. They basically do it on a daily basis. The fact that we are not enforcing the law at our southern border, the fact that like none of this stuff ever they don't get called out. There's no repercussions. It's just like you can flagrantly violate the law. We have people just looting stores, breaking in. I saw a video of some guy that like walked into a Target the other day. Some Target
under his
sells
arms?
liquor. And no, he just like had a bunch of liquor, just walked out the front door. And I mean, people were just watching him. Nobody could do anything about it because, I mean, the laws don't even apply anymore in so many places. It's just like, it's a little scary to think if you just gave the keys over to these people and said like there are no checks and balances on what you're doing, which is unfortunately what's happening right now.
Yep.
I mean, God, could you imagine what would happen to this country?
I think everything would look like Oregon, Portland, and San Francisco. Honestly, I think that's what the entire country would look like.
Who wants to live there?
A lot of people are leaving. What was it?
People.
I think it was 300,000 people left New York.
Yeah,
over the past year or 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, that's just New York. And New York and California have each lost a congressional seat because there are so many people that are leaving their states
to come to Florida and Texas and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because nobody wants to live like that. What about, do you have friends that sort of, you said a bunch of people kind of, when you decided to come out and say, look, I'm a Trump supporter, that they were like, I can't be friends with you. Have any of those people come back? Did they even?
They haven't. But the people that stayed, that didn't necessarily say anything at first, I kind of took that as a secret handshake. Like, we don't want to say anything publicly, but we agree with you. And little by little, those people came to me in direct messages and were like, I don't want to say anything because I'm afraid, but I support you. I'm still your friend, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that means something. It's not great, but it's better than just people talking crap and unfollowing me. And, so, and I understand why people are afraid, but I think if everybody just said what they really wanted to and were not afraid together, then I wouldn't be taking the heat for most of it.
There's power in numbers for sure.
I mean, look at how many people show up at these BLM protests, and all of a sudden everybody has to bow to them just because there's a bunch of them that are crazy. It's like it's sad. Well, and it's sad how the media is sad how politicians are taking advantage of minorities. And I think that
for sure.
I think that the black community, if it's a community, I think that black people and LGBT people are waking up around the same time.
I think so.
Like, they woke up around the same time and at the same rate, I would say. Mm-hmm. For every new black conservative that I meet a gay conservative. The new version of what conservative means.
It's just, honestly, I just don't think that people can stay asleep for much longer. And I have to believe that there will come a point where people look around and they see what's happening and they say, like, we can't continue to operate in this way. For me, I've found it very interesting because I do have a couple of friends who definitely have different political views than I do. Now, we never talk politics, but it has been challenging. It is a very difficult thing to stay friends with somebody who has such different political views, because at a certain point I'm like, are you really
you blind?
I know you're a smart person. I think you're a smart person, but how is it possible that you can agree with what is happening out there? I don't think that's
the thing. I don't think they agree with it. I don't think they do. If you actually
they're pretty quiet right now, Arielle, aren't they?
Yeah, they're quiet and they're terrified. Yeah. I don't think they agree. I think the majority of the people that act like they agree are wealthy celebrities that just want to play into the morality, the moral high ground, a moral superiority thing, and that's annoying. But then there were some of them which I respect 10 times more, like Dave Chappelle and Rob Schneider, and people that are that are following me on Twitter also. Which is pretty cool. Like J.K. Rowling and stuff, that are fighting against these abuse. Again, I'm going to use the word abusive, manipulative tactic. It's spot on. I have a video coming out soon about the abuse that the left spews and how it mirrors perfectly cult cult mentality.
It's so interesting.
Point by point, it's like everything that they do is a cult. It 100% is a cult without an official title or official name for it, whatever.
You're certainly not far off. Where can people, by the way, find all of your content? Because I'm sure people want to check it out.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/ARIELLE.
Okay. I mean,
I got a vanity URL because I was one of the first gays on YouTube.
Oh,
I know.
Look at you.
I know.
Very exciting.
Special.
Very exciting. So you're between New York and Florida, and I know I have made that transition. Basically, yep. I'm in Florida now. I moved from New York. I mean, it must be pretty hard to get back to New York after you've been in the free state of Florida.
It is, but I only go back in the summer when I can just be outside and live my life and nobody really bothers me anyway.
Yeah.
I would say the mandates and the craziness happens more in the winter, and I'm like, peace out. Like as soon as I see like a drop of snow, I'm like, I'm out, and I just I fly back to Florida.
Do you think? I mean, what do you think's gonna happen? Where in New York did you grow up?
South Brooklyn.
So I mean, you're from New York City.
Yeah.
Like obviously you're from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Do you think that things are going to get better there? I mean, I was really hopeful with this new mayor, but then he kept this mandate in place. What do you think is going to happen to New York?
I am proud of him for keeping schools open though, and him.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
I think that he's going to flip flop on a lot of issues at first. I think because he just got into office and he's nervous. But I think a lot of us have hope for him, even though he's a Democrat. He's definitely a more moderate.
Yeah.
Than de Blasio, which makes me ashamed of being an Italian.
Get worse than de Blasio.
De Blasio. I mean, the Italians ruined New York City. It's really bad. Him and Cuomo.
Oh my God.
It's bad. And I could say that my uncle. I forget which Cuomo it was, but my uncle went to baseball camp with one of them. I don't know, whatever. It's a small world of Italian New Yorkers.
Wow.
But I think it's going to get worse a little bit more. Just a little bit worse before it gets way better. That would be my best bet, because I think people aren't at like the absolute, ground level yet.
Yeah.
I think they have to suffer a little bit more to be like, what the hell is happening?
Like, this is our breaking point. We can't keep doing this here.
Well, my breaking point was, I mean, I had a lot of them, but the COVID stuff was like the vaccine mandates. It's like, do not tell me what to do with my body.
Well, see, and that's the thing. I find that there are a lot of people that and my friends that are Democrats, obviously they're like full throttle. They've been boosted a million times and stuff. All I think people care about is let everyone make their own decision. I don't care what you do. If you feel like you need the vaccine, that's great. If I feel like I need the vaccine, that's great. Just let us make the decision on our own. Correct. And the idea that as someone who possibly, like, what if you just had COVID and you just got done with it? You've got the antibodies, you've come out on the other side, and like the 98% of people in our age group, you're totally fine. You actually are much less inclined to get COVID and transmit COVID than anyone that has been like triple boosted at this point. But you can't even go into a restaurant.
A deli. I know.
Any building in New York City. Are we serious with this? That has got to change. That is, if he doesn't change that, I will be really disappointed, because the one thing I can say about this guy, Eric Adams, the new mayor in New York City, and again, you can't get worse than de Blasio. My God, it's like every possible decision he could have made, he made the wrong one on every front.
Everything.
At every
Even
turn.
Andy Cohen called him out. That's a big deal.
Exactly. I mean, it's pretty bad. But this guy seems like he's got some sense, Eric Adams. Obviously, he's a former police officer. Yeah. He's pro, law enforcement, which we definitely need to have more of.
I think that's going to be his first thing.
I think
so. Before anything, he's going to focus on crime, which we need.
I
hope so, because it's scary.
Yeah,
at the moment. Yeah, I won't take the train anymore. I mean, I wouldn't anyway because it's disgusting. But I specifically wouldn't anymore because of the crime rate in the trains.
And you look at the traffic in New York. All my friends that still live in New York and they commute in from like Connecticut and Westchester, or New Jersey into the city every day. They're like, the traffic is terrible, because no one is using mass transit. They're afraid they're going to get thrown on the tracks, assaulted in the, in the train on the way in. So it's causing all kinds of problems. So I'm sure Eric Adams will watch this show. I'm just gonna, from both of us, let's do the right things in New York. Let's make it a great place to live again. Let's make it the great city that it once was. For everybody. We want to have that city back.
Yes.
I ask everybody this, Arielle. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think is the best part of America, and what do you think is the biggest threat to the future of our country?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. The best part of America. I mean, I think it's the freedom of speech. I think that's the best part. I think that we need to continue that, and we need to stop the censorship.
Yeah.
Big, especially with big tech. And I think that's the answer. I think that's the answer to the second question. I think that's the biggest threat right now. Because if you can't critique ideas, you can't change the future. So,
well, I think you're spot on. And look, there used to be the free exchange of ideas. We used to be able to come to a table and have a discussion about things. People used to say their different viewpoints, and now it is basically one viewpoint that is allowed out there. You've been talking about Twitter like the whole show. I hate Twitter. Like, I do not go on Twitter ever. I couldn't even tell you the last time I tweeted. It was probably something for this show. Like, actually, after we do this show, I might go on Twitter and just put Twitter is terrible or something. Like, that'll be my tweet.
I just followed you on there because I was like, that's true. You never really posted anything, because usually I'll see stuff that I would see a Trump posting.
Well, my husband,
somebody retweeting him, and no one ever retweeted you. So I'm like, maybe she just doesn't tweet anything to be retweeted.
I don't do anything because it's
Twitter,
just honestly,
is a pool.
It's terrible. I'm much more.
But there's good people on there, just like any other site.
Well, yeah, I know there are, but anyway, I'm more inclined to post a photo. Probably like my dogs or
Instagram,
kids, quite frankly, on Instagram than I to like post something on Twitter. But I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Good luck with everything you're doing. I think your videos are awesome. I mean, you're really putting the truth out there unapologetically, and I think we need more of it. I'm happy to see that you have continued to stand your ground. Again, it would have been easy for you to be like, oh, no, I didn't mean to. No, not you, Arielle. You're going strong.
Not this time. I've done that before. I backpedaled in the past, but this time I was like, no, it's not happening. Yeah.
Good for you. That's the way it has to be. And our First Amendment, agree with you. Freedom of speech. We got to stand strong for that. That is, I mean, one of the things that makes this country the greatest country in the world. And once that is gone, I mean, you don't get it back if that's taken away from us. So keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep up with you on YouTube, and I follow you on I think on Twitter and Instagram. But what are your Twitter and Instagram handles for people?
Twitter is Arielle Scarcella without the A, because it's character limit, and then Instagram is Arielle_Scarcella.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on The Right View. It was great chatting with you. Great getting your thoughts. Everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.